coming straight from the cockpit. It's another episode of Lunatic Fringe with the fucking pilot.
Ready, set, go. All right, another edition of Lunatic Fringe Into the Void is coming at you straight from the can and with the magic of the internet. Again, on the other line, somebody to tell me some really cool stories, not just about skydiving primarily, but a lot of base jumping and stuff as well. So tell me, who the fuck are you and what do you do?
My name is Charley Kurlinkus. I guess what I do is I'm an ER doc, but I'm a skydiver second and a base jumper first, and have been for the last about 15 years or so.
You're a doctor, like an emergency room doctor.
Yeah, I got off my shift about 2 hours ago.
Jesus Christ. So you're like sticking fingers in bullet holes and taking care of all kinds of crazy shit.
Oh, sticking fingers all sorts of places.
Wait, we're still talking about being a doctor, right?
Yeah, good enough.
All right, fair enough.
No, yeah, just, if I work only nights in an emergency room here in Sacramento, California, where I live and have lived for the last 15 years or so. And yeah, if something real bad happens to you in the middle of the night, I'm your guy.
That's got to be pretty intense. I mean, an ER doctor, that's pretty fucking niche, isn't it? I mean, people do their residency and stuff, but then they usually go to a nice cushy family practice. So you must have found something you loved.
I've always been kind of I'd rather know a little bit about everything than be the supreme expert in one thing. And it seems like, I thought about doing orthopedic surgery for a while, but you kind of wind up training for 10 years and being the West Coast #1 left kneecap surgeon, and you operate on left kneecaps for the next 30 years. And I kind of like coming to work and having no idea what I'm going to see. I'm going to see whatever walks in the door, whether that's, belly pain or someone getting shot in the belly kind of thing. So
wow.
You never know. It's
I suppose, yeah, if you're so specialized in medicine, you'd almost become, it's an assembly line. You're just stamping the same part over and over.
Yeah, I mean, it's great that we are so subspecialized in medicine, because you get a guy who's, when you hurt your left kneecap, you get the guy who's an expert in that kind of thing. And that's the way that medicine's kind of turned. ER is kind of that last bastion of, we need people that are up in the middle of the night that know how to pretty much take care of everything. So
yeah. Well,
that's kind of where
and being a skydiver and you being a skydiver and base jumper as well, how the ER works from, I'm sure, both the doctor and patient side. I've been the benefactor to many of trips to the ER. So it's, and I'm always happy to see a doctor that knows what's up.
Yeah, no worries, Ed. So, we don't expect to see anybody, but we're always there if people need us. So that's kind of the mantra. So, yeah.
So how did you get into to jumping out of airplanes? I assume that you were jumping before you were an ER doctor.
Yeah, I started jumping, actually. I'm from just outside Chicago. I'm from right on the border between Wisconsin, Illinois, and Illinois. And I actually went to school at the University of Illinois, and I partially went there on a track scholarship. I used to be a high jumper. So not the thing with the pole, the thing where you just jump and flip backwards over and jump as high as you can in the air. So
okay.
For some reason, if you can jump real high in the air, then they'll pay you to go to school for it. So that was a pretty good deal.
Nice.
But I actually wound up graduating a year early after 3 years, and I'd always wanted to do skydiving. And if you're on an athletic scholarship, one of the caveats is that if you get hurt doing something that they deem is kind of a stupid thing for you to be doing, they can pull your scholarship. So that kind of prevented me from skydiving before I was kind of finished with school. So I basically went through a 4th year of school and did a year of grad school and was getting paid to be a TA and things like that, but I wasn't getting any money for the track team. So the summer before my last year of being in school, I decided to go do a tandem with my little brother and really enjoyed it, and then was doing my AFF the next weekend.
Wow.
So it was kind of something that I'd always wanted to do but couldn't do. I tried it. I thought I'd like it. I did like it, and it just kind of went from there.
Nice.
Like I'm sure a lot of people listening, I kind of fell in love with the drop zone lifestyle and was spending every free second I could out there doing jumps and hanging out at bonfires and getting drunk and all the fun stuff that comes with skydiving.
Yeah, man. Now, you said that you were obviously an athlete for college, and you did the track team thing, and you'd mentioned you don't get paid for that. So a quick sideline question: what do you think of the whole not scandal, but all the bullshit involved with college athletes not getting paid?
It's super interesting because actually, while I was in school at the University of Illinois, our basketball team was in the national championship game my junior year, and a few of the guys wound up playing in the NBA for a while after that. And I did a paper for a class on should athletes get paid, and that was 2004. So we're 15, 16 years later, and we're still having this discussion of, hey,
Right.
if I wear jersey number 5 on the basketball court, they're selling that jersey in the bookstore for $100 a pop. Why am I not getting any of that money, kind of thing?
Right.
Which is an interesting question, and one bad injury, you don't make any money from that, and the university still made a bunch of money off you. So
yeah, that was
it's
always
a really interesting question, and I think it's interesting that now we're starting to see finally some change where they're talking about paying athletes. So it'll be interesting to see kind of what happens the next few years.
Yeah,
that
for
too.
sure. I mean, I don't know what my opinion was in regard to whether or not the athletes had a salary, so to speak. But if they're using that athlete's name and they're making money off of this person's name on a jersey or a poster or something like that, that's when I'm like, well, wait a second, this is this fucking guy's name. As soon as you cross that line, I think that guy needs to get paid for sure.
Yeah, and you're paying the coaches $10 million a year, but you're not paying the players anything. It's kind of an interesting, I can see it from both sides where people say, no, it's college, it should be not paid, all that kind of stuff. But it's interesting when there's that much money involved, it gets pretty tricky. It's not like there's $100,000, there's $1 billion kind of in NCAA football and basketball. So
my God, I think
to see kind of how they handle that.
I think collegiate sport-wise, it's well over $1 billion a year industry, if not dramatically more. And obviously all the money is just being made off of the athletes. So I don't want to sidetrack too much, but it seems like still a pretty sticky subject for sure.
Yeah, so, it's been interesting after, like I said, years and years later that we're still talking about and finally making some movement on it.
Sure,
so,
sure.
Interesting.
So you went from a college athlete not making any money to a skydiver.
Spending even more money I didn't have.
Yeah, so clearly money has never been a motivation in regard to sport for you.
No, not at all. And basically, people always ask me like how I paid for skydiving and things like that. And so I wound up skydiving basically on the money I was getting paid to be a grad student. I put every cent I kind of made of my whatever I was getting $1,500 a month stipend to teach a couple of classes in grad school. That was getting spent at the drop zone every weekend and going towards gear and stuff like that. And then after that first kind of season and a half of jumping, I moved out to California to start medical school, moved out to Sacramento. And I must say that a motivating factor for moving that way was definitely that there are 2 very large drop zones very near where I live, which is a big benefit when you're super into skydiving at first.
Sure. So now where'd you go to college?
I went to the University of Illinois in Champaign, Illinois.
And Champaign, okay. And then medical school? And then
for med school, UC Davis, which is actually, even though it's Davis is in the name, it's actually in Sacramento. But wound up teaching actually another anatomy class for the undergrad while I was in med school, being down at Davis and teaching a class and then going to the drop zone and then coming back and teaching another section of the class. So spending a lot of my time and energies down at the drop zone those first couple of years of med school. For sure.
So now med school, I mean, obviously I only know from movies and television, but med school seems like it would be one of the most intense things a person could possibly go through. How the fuck do you manage to jump out of airplanes and get through med school?
That's a good question. Yeah, it's not an unintense experience. You got to spend. It just takes time. Being good at memorizing stuff really helps. That was advantageous. And during the biggest time suck, especially your first year of med school, is doing human anatomy. You basically spend a lot of time in a lab dissecting a human body and memorizing every little nerve, muscle, origin, insertion of muscles, everything. Getting tests on this stuff. Right. Well, when I was in grad school, I actually taught human anatomy for 2 sessions for 2 semesters, kind of thing. So I had that pretty down pat. So all the time my classmates were spending studying this kind of stuff, I was playing at the drop zone.
You're jumping.
So that definitely helped out. And teaching anatomy that year paid for more jumps. So yeah, it was kind of using the funds I had available in the best possible way to squeeze out all the fun and excitement I could.
I'd say that's pretty fucking good, man, because I tell you what, I don't know anybody that in the sport, and I've been in it for, 25 years now, that was going through med school and becoming a skydiver at the same time.
Yeah, it was definitely, if I was burning the candle at both ends, breaking the candle in half and burning those ends too for a number of years. So I don't think now I could go, when you're 22, you can do that kind of thing. I don't think I could go back and do it if I started today.
No.
Or want to do it if I started today. But
no. Well,
yeah,
it
was fun.
You talked about the whole drop zone life as well. So you're just getting into skydiving and you're in med school, but the drop zone when you're just getting started is it's Wonderland. I mean, all the coolest shit happens after the jumping goes on, which again is not exactly good for study time. So
yeah, I mean, and it was, it was this wonderland to me because I grew up, small town in the Midwest, playing traditional sports, playing basketball, running track, doing that kind of stuff. So,
right.
Moving out to California and skydiving and meeting all the people involved in skydiving and some of these great athletes from other sports kind of thing was just amazing to me. I felt very out of place hanging out with some of these people, but yeah, it was definitely an amazing opportunity I never expected.
For sure. Now, well, and that's where your and my paths crossed was out at Skydance.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
out in Northern California. Yeah, working, jumping and having fun with Ray Farrell and the gang out there.
Oh yeah, it's yeah, and I did a couple of real hard years of skydiving out there, and loved every second. Was out there every weekend, then kind of snuck into the base world and never really looked back.
So how'd that start? I mean, especially again, you're becoming a doctor. I'm sure you're learning about all the different ways that people fuck themselves up, and you decide to take up a hobby that is, by and large, the most dangerous sport on the planet.
Sure. Yeah. And the funny thing then is, this was 2006, and it's amazing how much more public bases this day and age, where everyone, those were the days when I was first flying wingsuits, and you would go to a new drop zone, people were like, oh, is that one of those wingsuits? That's really cool.
Right.
And now everyone's grandma has seen proximity flying YouTube videos and things like that. But
sure,
that was the time where you jump all day, and then as people are starting to drink and hang out, a couple of guys would go sneak away and be packing these other parachutes like back behind the hangar and then going out and sneaking around. I was like, hey, what are you guys doing? And
right.
wound up climbing towers and watching guys free fall past me and just being like, yeah, I need to do that. It looks really fun.
Well, and Northern California was a pretty base rich area as well, wasn't it?
Oh, I mean, it was in no intention my reason for moving out here, but I couldn't imagine a better place in the U.S., maybe outside of Twin Falls, which is Twin Falls and Northern California are very different places for other reasons, but that has a base history of people jumping since the 80s and 90s, and having a giant national park that's real close that has quite a significant base jumping history too. So I couldn't have asked for kind of a better place to live for base jumping, I would say, in the US.
Yeah, well, I mean, shit, you've got in fact, I think the first time I ever saw really public base on film was the Triple X movie where they jumped the Corvette
off
the Auburn Bridge.
Yep.
I
mean, it's having that bridge a 30-minute drive from my house is a pretty big luxury. When there's a lot of base jumpers out there that they drive an hour and a half to jump a 300-foot guy wired antenna, and having a 700+ foot bridge in your backyard is a pretty big luxury for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, that's some serious altitude in the base world when most people are just scraping by, getting as much as they possibly can. So that's pretty cool. So now, getting the slider up is a big luxury in base for sure on a daily basis. So. Oh yeah. So now, are you the only skydiver in the family?
So my little brother, I have three brothers, and the youngest of them came out and did his AFF at Lodi about probably 2008 or 9.
Okay.
And like a good smart brother, I had him do his AFF with Ed Pulowski. He had 9 jumps, and we went to Twin Falls and PCA'd him off the bridge.
Of course you did. Why wouldn't you?
But he did three base jumps on that trip, and he's never done any since. And he got into skydiving for a little while. I think he wound up doing about 150, 200 skydives, and then kind of as happens to people, life, school, other things got in the way, and didn't do as much jumping anymore. But he still does a couple of jumps a year, renting gear or borrowing gear and stuff like that. So
fair enough.
It's been cool. It's very cool to jump with a sibling if people that get to regularly and have a skydiving family. It's really cool to be able to jump with your family. For sure.
My favorite skydiving family ever, you'll know quite well, is Perry and Zinda Colburn.
Sure, yeah.
And Perry and Zinda, both active skydivers, and I believe at one point all of their kids were skydivers. At least 2 of the daughters were skydivers.
I remember the daughters coming out for sure, yeah.
Yeah, how epic is that?
Yeah, it's pretty cool to be able to share that with your family. And I mean, my parents wouldn't get in a plane to do a tandem to save their lives for sure. So, it's been cool that I've jumped with all my other brothers doing tandems and things like that. And then the one, doing actual jumps, which has been real cool.
Yeah. How cool is that? So now you started out with skydiving, you started getting into base jumping, you're still in medical school. But I know now you've been all over the world base jumping and doing all kinds of crazy shit. That's a big transition, man. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I can't say when I did my first, base jump that I could have ever dreamed the places it would take me and the things I'd be able to do with it. I mean, that's not why I got into it at all, but it's taken me some amazing places for sure. I can't complain about that. So
What are your other doctors and coworkers at the hospital think of all this?
The funny thing is I figured I could always go one of two ways about it. You can either kind of talk about it, make it a normal thing that you do, and it's just this kind of quirky, funny, weird thing that Charley does, or it's this super dangerous, secret, illegal thing. So I've always been pretty open about my jumping and things like that, and I kind of don't do as many high profile jumps close to home for that reason. And all my coworkers know at least that I do this kind of stuff. I don't really go posting videos anywhere, sharing them with them or anything like that, but they know it's something I.
You must be like the fucking cool doctor at the hospital.
Only in my own mind.
Yeah, fair enough. That's all that matters, right?
Yeah.
So, what was your first big destination jump? I mean, where did you go, okay, fuck, I gotta fly across the world to jump off of this?
I mean, in kind of the mid 2000s when wingsuiting was kind of starting, just even going over to Switzerland and going to Lauterbrunnen Valley, which kind of now is this low little thing that no one bothers with anymore. But at the time, that was one of the big destinations where you could go and do a bunch of jumps. And I always really have been kind of a solo guy. I like doing a lot of solo base jumps. I like traveling solo, and I would have just little chunks of time that I could wedge in between med school rotations and things like that, where I could get out to place for a couple of weeks. I'd rent a vehicle and I would just kind of go meet people and tag around with them. Kind of today, you can go online and find GPS coordinates and laser rock drops and all sorts of things for pretty much every jump around. And back then, it was kind of these secret sites that you had to get to know Swiss guys, that they would trust you and take you to a place and things like that. And I always found it was way easier if you were traveling solo and you kind of, could prove yourself that you were good enough, you didn't really have to worry about anything else. They would usually take you. So I got to kind of meet a lot of international jumpers early on, and, jumps with cool people lead to more cool jumps and events eventually and things like that. So it's taken me all over the world, I think.
I mean, it's a small, tight little community for sure. Base jumping obviously being a much smaller than skydiving as a whole, but a really, really tight-knit group of people. I guarantee I could name off a dozen random names and you'd probably know at least 10 of them.
Oh, yeah, sure. I mean, it's especially if you get into guys that have been around for 10 plus years. I mean, that are still jumping. There's not tons. So it's cool to kind of, know those names, hear those names, and kind of meet people eventually in real life and then become friends with them. It's kind of a cool thing.
What is the?
It's a really weird thing to have in common that really can bond you.
Right?
Skydiving is the same kind of stuff, but base jumping even more so.
Well, it used to be skydiving, and this was 22, 23 years ago when I still wore a closing pin necklace and once in a blue moon. Yeah,
you've switched back to your puka shells now.
Yeah, right.
Is that how it?
I've still got the necklace. I just don't wear it anymore.
Sure.
But yeah, once in a blue moon, someone out in public would recognize what it was, and it was an instant friendship. Oh God, we've got something cool to talk about. Base jumping dramatically more so. Obviously, the danger factor and the pucker factor is quite high in that comparatively now. So what does the family think of the base jumping more than the skydiving? Skydiving almost nowadays is so. What's the word? It's not mundane, but it's just so mainstream now. People don't really think twice about it.
Yeah, and I think that's the internet and YouTube for pretty much anything that's crazy. I mean, even proximity flying base jumping videos get so few views now compared to what they do, and no one's paying a bunch of money for that kind of stuff, just because you kind of get desensitized to everything and how crazy it really is to truly do it yourself when you can just watch it from a first person view from your computer. You're like, yeah, I could do that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and especially when if you're even slightly knowledgeable about the sport, the success rate, especially 2-3 years ago, was not great.
Yeah, wingsuits have been. Have come through base jumping, especially wingsuit base jumping, in a very interesting time to kind of see the sport really just blow up and kind of, like I said, most people know what a wingsuit is now. I mean, just lay people know what a wingsuit. People that have no recollection of skydiving or desire to do skydiving have at least seen a lot of those videos.
Sure.
And there was definitely a time where we were kind of pushing stuff more than we knew what to do and more than the technology could have seen. I didn't listen to your podcast with Matt and Mike from Squirrel, but I'm sure they talked about the same thing, being around from that same time, just how things have progressed.
Oh,
how,
yeah.
you know, the average wingsuit base jumper, or the average wingsuit pilot today versus 10 years ago is so much more skilled and so much more knowledgeable about, you know, the training's better, the suits are better, all that kind of stuff.
Oh, so, for sure.
It's, you know, when that stuff happens, the performance increases. There's definitely a sharp edge to any sport like that, where people are gonna figure out what's possible, and they're gonna figure that out by figuring out what's not possible.
Oh yeah, well, and I mean, I talked about it with Nick and Matt, and Matt Munting and Nick as well. That the popularity of those YouTube videos, people doing the proximity flying and all this crazy stuff, has people that have no fucking business trying this shit, are, you know, secondhand buying a suit and going out and flicking stuff that they've got no business doing, and sometimes they get lucky, and a lot of times they don't.
Sure, I mean it's the visibility of it is so much more out there, and people can go on the internet and buy gear and figure it out. I mean, it's pretty crazy how that's changed.
It is. And it's kind of funny because I know that as soon as you start talking about regulation and policing stuff, people like you and I flinch automatically. Ooh, no, that's really bad. But, I mean, you got somebody that just barely finished AFF that just got a hold of a freak suit and they want to go jump off something in Italy. That's bad.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we had a couple of years ago a guy, I think he did his AFF and then took his skydiving rig out to Brento and bought a big wingsuit, and that lasted exactly one jump, less than one jump. So
yep. Well,
that kind of stuff, you know, luckily it's few and far between, it seems like, but people can still do that.
I think I heard that story. Was he not approached by multiple people trying to talk him into not jumping?
Yes. I think people had kind of sniffed out that his plan was something not good, and I think he hid while everyone else exited and then came back out when everyone else had already gone and jumped, I think was the story I heard. So, I mean, people, you can't save them all.
No. Well,
you know,
I mean, people... I get the whole learn from your own mistakes, because most of the time people are not good at learning from other people's mistakes. But when it comes to skydiving and base jumping, I think I make the exception and try and learn from other people's fuck ups.
Yeah, there's enough information out there that's, you know, the base fatality list is sitting there for everyone to read, and there's a lot of good lessons that can be learned by just doing that.
Well,
and you know, in the last few years, the lesson might be that, man, wingsuits are kind of dangerous.
Yeah, so. You know, and I never got into base jumping, not because it wasn't an attractive thing for me, but because I had a daughter, and I just kind of crossed that line and went, nope, that's not for me, no matter how cool it looked. But I'd take the desire for that, and then I'd start to watch all my friends over all the years who've gravitated toward that kind of stuff get themselves in a lot of trouble and either really fucking hurt or killed, that were really extremely talented pilots that just something went wrong. Oops.
Yeah, and those are definitely the scariest ones that always were for me, is when somebody dies. And you say, wow, that guy was way better than me.
Yeah, man.
I mean, that's happened definitely to me a handful of times, where I'm like, holy shit, that guy was way better than me.
Well, and I'm sure a lot of the people that you and I both crossed paths with, I mean, when Dean Potter passed away, I was like, what? No.
Yeah. No, Dean was a very, very close friend. So, I mean, that was definitely, I mean, to me, and I started wingsuit base in 2006, and I did my last wingsuit base jump in 2016. And that was kind of after that big rash of fatalities, and after Dean died was what kind of one of the last straws for me, because I mean, you can have the conversation of how safe something is and how we can do this forever, and we're not going to make these mistakes. I've had that conversation with so many dead guys, Dean included. I mean, and when you start really thinking about that and asking yourself if you are crazy doing this stuff and thinking you can do it safely, and you know, eventually for me the wingsuit just wasn't worth it. There wasn't anything left that I needed to do in it. After, you know, I would say that I was on kind of the tip of the spear for a solid 4 or 5 years of kind of pushing what's possible and opening a lot of jumps and seeing a new jump and being like, hey, one guy's jumped it, I'm jumping it too.
Sure.
Kind of thing. So
how do you?
It's been. Go ahead.
You've been into the wingsuit base jumping specifically, and like you said, tip of the spear for a lot of it. But so now you're a doctor, and you see the horrible shit that human beings can do to themselves. Did that ever temper anything that you did, or were you able to separate that?
Yeah, I think I was always able to separate it both because I've seen how bad things can be, and I've also seen how anything can happen to anyone at any time.
Sure.
The saddest cases for me are always when tell a 27-year-old guy that's got 2 kids that he's got stage 4 pancreatic cancer, and that's why his belly's been hurting.
God.
And you realize, it's always nice people. It's always, it's the fucking worst. It's the absolute worst.
Damn, dude. See, that's why I'm gonna just stay an asshole.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's the biggest way to protect. Only nice people die early. That seems to be that. It's always the nicest family people that get diagnosed with the most awful shit. And,
fuck me,
and kind of seeing that you say to yourself, I'm not gonna go kill myself, but I'm not gonna sit and bubble wrap myself either.
Right.
So
yeah,
it's a double-edged sword, and the same thing with that. I always get I'll get the occasional person that's like, you're a doctor, like, how could you do something so irresponsible and crazy and stuff? And I kind of say, hey, if you've just gotten shot in the chest 6 times and you get brought in at 3:00 in the morning, do you want the guy that freaks out under pressure or the guy that jumps off crazy shit for fun?
All right.
Kind of that can deal. So it takes a lot to get me kind of flustered.
Oh, I would imagine.
At work or in any situation. And that's possibly because I do crazy stuff for my hobbies too.
Sure. Well, and I mean, personally, I think that's a bit of a bullshit argument. Why would a doctor do something dangerous? I mean, how many doctors do you work with smoke?
Oh yeah, well, not many this day and age, but
I mean,
it's or drink or do anything.
Sure.
Any number of things that they know are bad for.
Of course, absolutely. I mean, that's just part of life. Is you're going to do what you want to do, whether or not it's particularly good for you or not. The best thing you can do is try and keep your head screwed on straight and be as smart about it as you can be, for sure.
Yeah.
So now
there's risk in everything in life, and you just gotta decide how much is for you.
So now I'm going to briefly sidetrack a little bit and ask you more medical-based stuff. So as a doctor, for as long as you've been a doctor and as long as you've been skydiving and base jumping, you know all the different ways that us skydivers fuck ourselves up. What are some, other than not hitting the ground too hard, what are some ways that skydivers can help reduce the chance of the bullshit little injuries, the fucked up shoulders and backs and stuff that we hurt every day?
Well, I mean, I'm sure you've seen that one of the best things for necks has been GoPros. I would say.
Oh God,
yes. You're not sitting out there with with a D3 on your head and a side mount high 8 tape camera. I mean, I've still got plenty of high 8 tapes floating around from the early days. But I mean, it's amazing how much that's taken the stress off people. I mean, when was the last time you saw a guy that was wearing like a neck brace?
Oh yeah.
For a camera helmet, and that used to be a fairly common thing when people were shooting big old cameras.
Yeah, man.
It's like anything though in any sport. You just kind of pay attention and don't make the real bad decision. When you're learning to swoop, get some instruction. Watch people that know what they're doing. Don't just say, "Hey, I'm just going to do 180s" and bury yourself into the ground. I mean,
right.
It's usually when people are kind of It's like anything. Complacency is a killer. Complacency is always the thing that in our sport, in any sport kind of thing. It's the real deal every time that you're doing it. So just take it seriously and remember that anything can happen at any time. Just be ready for it.
No doubt. And stretch.
Yeah, that's it. Everyone gets old. Stretch.
Fucking stretch, man. That's the one thing I wish I had learned a long time ago. I spent a fair amount of time in Eloy over the years, and they always had people doing yoga on groups in the mat, and I always walk by them going, the fuck are they doing? And now I would give anything to go back and do yoga with those guys.
It's amazing how if you're doing stuff and not abusing your body but using your body, you're going to be sore and you're going to need to do that kind of general maintenance stuff. And I think everyone, when they hit kind of their early to mid 30s, starts feeling that. It only gets more over time.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, definitely. I make a lot more noises than I ever used to, and it's doing a lot less shit. Getting off the couch now, it sounds like I'm trying to deadlift record weights. So as you started really getting into the base jumping and really traveling, what are some really memorable objects and jumps and trips that you've had? Because I know you've had more than I can count. Sure.
I mean, a lot of the early trips when we were going over to France and opening a lot of the jumps that I still see people doing today were really special times, and kind of opening a jump is always a cool thing, being there for the first time and being, knowing it's possible and thinking it's possible, but no one's ever done it before. So it's a little bit scary.
That's gotta be.
Those are always kind of cool jumps though. I mean, getting to go places like China and going to South Africa and doing jumping there, and going to, you know, Dubai in the early days where there was some buildings that you could jump fairly easily and with not too much hassle. So there's been a lot of good ones. I did jump. You know, people always ask me. It's a common question. You know, what's your most memorable jump, kind of thing. As far as kind of the uniqueness of the object, and probably that it'd be almost impossible to do it now. Is you know, a number of years ago, me and a buddy decided to just head to Paris and try to jump the Eiffel Tower.
No shit.
So we got there. You know, got there the day before. Kind of scouted out where our possible entries were, and there was a guy, a French guy, who's actually, you know, died on a jump actually since that time. That was kind of the master of the Eiffel Tower, and he'd been, I can't remember, he jumped it 40 or 50 times, but he'd gotten busted a bunch too.
Of course.
And my buddy Shane Murphy from he was probably still is probably the best wingsuit pilot I've ever jumped with. Amazing wingsuit pilot. Died in 2012 before even wingsuits got good. And we had a day off. It was going to be raining where we were in France, and he kind of brought up the idea of, let's go and try to jump the Eiffel Tower. He's like, I got this contact with this French guy. You know, I'll get the beta. We'll figure it out. Let's do it. It's worthwhile. So we're calling this French guy. We're like, hey, you know, tell us how you do this. How do you sneak in? Where do you go? Oh, it's very easy. You should just do it. Yeah, okay, like, what should we do? Should we go in which leg? No, it's very easy. You'll figure it out. Just go do it. Wouldn't give us anything. Would not give us any information at all.
No shit.
But basically, long story short, wound up finding a little area of construction and climbing up a leg and climbing up some fire escapes and
no shit,
doing some kind of James Bondy stuff around some security cameras, which is very memorable. It's kind of stepping over security cameras and things like that, climbing on the outside of the Eiffel Tower, and
Jesus
got
Christ.
up there. Sun started rising. Decided to jump. So yeah, it was pretty cool.
With stuff like
that's definitely a unique experience. I always remember that one.
You know, I'm told by a lot of different base jumpers that the most memorable or the funnest jumps are some of these clandestine fucking James Bond 007 shit, that the jump is cool, but it's the prep to the jump and everything you have to do in order to make it happen.
Building jumps, urban, like active building jumps are always pretty cool jumps.
It's pretty intense.
I've got to, yeah, it's cool, kind of, you know, you're sneaking around, and I think most base jumpers do kind of the, you know, leave no trace kind of ethics. We don't try to break stuff. We're there to jump a building, and that's it. We're not stealing shit. We're not breaking shit. Don't worry about us. We're gonna, you know, the best base jumper is the one you've never heard of, kind of thing.
Right. I've done ground crew for a few base jumps out of Vegas, and they were always very entertaining because you never quite know what's going on, and you're waiting on the ground, waiting for the canopies to hear, you know, you hear that crack, and hopefully they're going to land where they land. And I wasn't on.
We're going for the same. We're going through the same thing up top where you're kind of looking around for cops. My first building jump ever was 12 years ago now, 13 years ago, and the way we were going to jump and the place we were going to land, we were getting ready, we were geared up, and a cop pulled up right there. And they were sweeping, and they were tearing down another building to start building. This is in San Francisco. And there's just a cop car parked right where we're going to land. So we go and decide to jump on the other side of the building. And there's a blue tarp that's kind of on the edge of this building under construction. My plan, I was going to run off the roof and jump over this kind of about 8-10 inch lip, clear it, and then free fall. My buddy I was with, because it was pretty early in my jumping career, was like, no, go poise. It's way safer. You know, stay on there. You'll get a good push off. So I'm standing there on the edge on the blue tarp, and I push real hard. My feet slip out from under me, and I go straight head down off the building about 6 inches away from this solid glass building.
Oh.
And I remember seeing my own reflection and thinking to myself, maybe I'll do a front flip. I was like, I've never done a front flip. That's probably not a good idea. Like, let's just pitch. Throw it out, pilot chute, hits my foot. Perfect down heading opening.
Jesus.
I was like, holy crap. All right, go land. Great.
I mean, sometimes it's all about luck, isn't it?
I mean, I'm sure most people are listening, if they're skydivers, know the skill bucket, luck bucket kind of thing. And you're going to have to dip into that luck bucket now and again. So especially early on. And if you're planning on doing base, I mean, there's definitely something to be said for getting through those early jumps.
I think it was Matt from Squirrel and Matt Munting both said, there's a lot of base jumpers that will tell you that it's all skill and there's no luck involved, and they're full of shit. That there is a fair amount of luck involved. And with skydiving as well, there's some luck involved. You just got more options with skydiving than you do with base jumping.
Yeah, you've definitely got some more fallbacks in skydiving. But yeah, I mean, things like tension knots and stuff like that. I mean, just weird shit happens. I mean, when you've only got one canopy and you're deploying at 200 feet, 300 feet, I
think that's the thing that's always gotten to me, as I think about it as I get older, the allure of base jumping has faded for me, because what is a normal, almost just an annoyance in skydiving is fucking potentially fatal on a base jump.
Oh, sure.
I mean, holy shit.
Yeah, not being able to get rid of your canopy if something goes real bad is rough.
Yeah, well, and then there's the other things like, Christ, I'm struggling to remember his name, that drowned in the Merced River after jumping El Cap.
Oh yeah, sure. Frank Gambale.
Yeah. So, and I believe
the gambler.
Yeah, and he was actually the one. You remember the old Chronicles movies? Of course. He I think it was Chronicles 3 where he's up on top of an antenna at the very end of the movie, and cops pull up and they're trying to get him to come down, and he's like, fuck it. And so he flicks it, lands right next to the cop car, and at one point in the video, he actually gives his stash bag to the cop so he can put his canopy in the stash bag. And I remember pissing my pants laughing. But the downside to the fact that they've made base illegal, especially something as stupid as base illegal in Yosemite, is that somebody like poor Frank fucking drowns in the Merced River just trying to get away from the Rangers. How stupid is that?
Yeah, it's the legality in Yosemite is always kind of a tricky thing, because people, I've been hanging out in Yosemite for a fair few years and spent my fair share of time there. And people always ask, "Oh, don't you wish it was legal?" And I do some and I don't some kind of thing. It's I totally understand people are like, yeah, it'd be great to go and jump whatever we want. I'm like, great. And then part of me is like, man, base jumpers are fucking idiots and are gonna shit all over everything kind of thing. So it's tough. It's definitely a double-edged sword. But things like that where it is totally true that there has been injuries and fatalities that are 100% because people are jumping early or late or dark, things like that, trying to avoid getting caught,
which is a bunch of bullshit.
Definitely it's definitely a legitimate thing that happens. So.
I think it was Valley Uprising was the movie I was watching, and it was one section of it was highlighting Dean Potter and when he came up with the idea of freebase. And for those that don't know, freebase is to free solo, which means climbing with no harness, no ropes, up these massive faces, but he was wearing a base rig so that after a certain height, if he came off, he had a chance to deploy his canopy. Completely legal to climb these big fucking 3,000-foot rocks with no ropes. Illegal if he falls off and uses the parachute to save his own life. How fucking stupid is that? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, Yosemite is a very interesting place, and I, sadly it is, and it kind of always has been. So you can't get that upset. It's a tourist trap in a lot of ways.
Sure,
I mean, it's been a tourist trap since like the late 1800s when people were going out there and staying in
since Muir.
Hotels, and I do think that if things like climbing, if it wasn't such an integral part and kind of grandfathered in the valley, the National Park Service has no reason for climbing to be an activity in Yosemite. Like, it doesn't make them any money. It doesn't do anything beneficial for the park, kind of thing. So
sure.
I don't think, and the truth of Yosemite base jumping too is that, there is technically a permit that you can apply for to base jump in Yosemite.
Really?
And because that it's ever been issued, but there is a permit. So if you're like, man, we want to protest so we can jump in Yosemite, they're like, okay, you can apply. Because of that, and there is a permit, you can't really review the activity. With slacklining, I think there was some kind of review of the activity, and they decided to say, okay, these are the rules. This is how we're going to make it. What you have to do, you have to pad trees and ropes and things like that to make it done safely. Base jumping, if you ever like, hey, we need to review if we can base jump, they're like, oh, you can, just apply for the permit. That they'll never grant.
Right.
So it's kind of a way of being like, yep, this is our final stance, and We ain't
Sure.
changing it.
Well, I know when they did the protest jump, God, this must have been 25 years ago or close to,
Sure.
and again, for those that don't know, one of the jumpers, I believe the story was last minute she decided to jump a different rig in protest of base jumping being illegal, and they had made this agreement with the Rangers that the Rangers weren't going to bust them until after they jumped, but they were going to get busted when they landed. But everything was understood.
And they were going to take their gear away, which was the integral part.
Which is why she decided to jump a borrowed rig, because her normal rig was her favorite rig. And I cannot remember the handle placement, so you'll have to tell me if you know.
Yeah, it's a leg pull out.
So she had a
old school pull out, yeah.
Yeah, and so she jumped out, and the one that she borrowed was it a BOC?
I think hers was a BOC, and the one she borrowed was a leg pull out. I think she went BOC and kept going.
Yeah, and
never found it.
And of course, it was Tom Sanders was her husband, filmed her from exit, and then halfway down, she's reaching for the BOC over and over and over again, brain locked all the way in. Stupid shit like that, I mean, she basically died because she didn't want to lose her rig. Well, that was silly on her part, but ridiculous in the fact that they even had to do that jump.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard because base is definitely one of those sports where there's not a lot of room for error, and people die and will unfortunately continue to die.
Yeah, man.
I mean, hopefully in smaller and smaller numbers, and there's been more fatalities in the last 5 or 6 years, and actually this last year I think there was 18 or less, which is actually kind of low, which is kind of a good thing, but the amount of people that are jumping now compared to 5 years ago is dramatically higher. So even though the incidents are still happening, the percentage of them is definitely decreasing.
It just seems, I know that the skill levels have gone through the roof, but the rash of fatalities and the skill level of the jumpers that have been going, do you think it's getting almost to the point where, you said you basically did everything you had to do in a wingsuit and kind of backed off. Nick and Matt Munting have told me that they've stopped with the proximity stuff so much, and they're pulling away from the mountain and almost doing much more free fly type stuff, but much further away from the terrain. Do you see that as a trend? Or I think it's just like skydiving heavy again. It's always kind of what's the next thing where we've seen, remember when swooping, I've been long enough where I remember when swooping was still kind of an early-ish thing kind of stuff, and swoop ponds and swoop comps were get your stiletto out there and go crazy. But it's in wingsuit base now, people are less impressed by the crazy I'm flying 6 inches off the ground at 1,000 miles an hour kind of weaving between trees, and they're more seeing people doing these cool acrobatic maneuvers and back flying and doing it's just the new thing, it's the different thing. So I'm sure we'll see it change and change again too. Well, and I'm sure it's the old man in me and again the non-base jumper in me, but when I would watch these terrain videos with people literally brushing treetops or scrub brush because they're that low, it wasn't that I wasn't impressed, because I absolutely was impressed, but I was horrified that it's one itty bitty downdraft is all it'll take, so I stopped being impressed,
It's taking that margin of error down to zero.
Yeah.
And stuff happens. I'll never forget one of my friends, Brian Drake, that died in 2014 in a wingsuit, base jumping. We were jumping out in France and we landed, and he's like, "Man, I almost hit a deer." And I was like, "What?" And he pulls out the video, and sure enough, he missed hitting a little small antelope, whatever they have in the mountains in France, hanging out over there, by like 3 feet.
Jesus.
And when that kind of random stuff can happen, I mean, that's when there's, that kind of stuff can happen.
Yeah.
When you're taking it down to that level. So,
it
definitely is. Like I said, you take that margin of error down to zero, then any little thing can happen.
Yeah, you no longer are just relying on your skill. There's way too many other factors involved. And obviously, most of the wingsuit base jumping is happening in mountainous terrain, which can be very volatile weather-wise and wind-wise. And I know that a very smart wingsuit pilot knows exactly what's coming. But, man, those little breezes happen, and deer come out of nowhere. And the variables just make my head hurt.
Yeah, it is amazing too what people are doing with lasers now and terrain mapping and all this crazy stuff. I mean, and guys going up to do a new jump and basically will shoot a laser down and get a few points, have a GPS coordinates of every start they've ever done in a wingsuit and been like, yep, every single one makes it by exactly this amount at this level. This will be my close point. It's pretty crazy, how they can use technology to make it safer. I mean, I still feel like, an old man now that, how was the rock drop? 6 seconds? Sure, that's good. Versus now they'll tell you the exact points along the line and exactly where you're going to be and things like that.
God,
so
that's fucking crazy.
It is amazing what people are doing, with technology to make it safer, to do these crazy things, but make it a lot safer.
Now, speaking of technology, what do you think of the Jetman stuff?
Oh, it's crazy. I wonder, part of me wonders how commonplace that'll be in 20 years.
Right.
If more people, I was watching the vertical takeoff video the other day and being like, oh man.
I know it.
That's there.
I'm
sure you've seen way more of that than I have in person kind of stuff.
I've been very lucky. Yeah, I've been able to fly formation with both of them at one point. Ives and Vince and Fred were formed up on the back of a Twin Otter I was flying. That was pretty ridiculous. And then just recently seeing that video of, I think it was Vince flying up to a helicopter vertically and just stopping, hovering, throwing up a shaka, and then dropping away. Which is it's fucking.
Those guys are such talented pilots too. I've Fred especially. I've gotten to know a little bit at events over the years and stuff like that, and I think that's kind of what the big change in wingsuit base was when, early 2000s. It seemed like wingsuit pilots at a lot of drop zones were old guys that didn't want to do RW and base jumpers. Young guys are, at least at places like Lodi. That was definitely the case.
Sure.
And when the free fly, cool, 5,000 jump guys started putting on wingsuits and being like, oh, this is a cool thing that we can do some really amazing stuff with all our skills. That's when we saw, when Noah, I remember Noah Bonson putting on a wingsuit for the first time and coming out at Lodi. I mean, watching him just, I remember him doing his first base jumps and watching what he's done and the skill level and all that stuff is just unbelievable.
It's through the roof. It really is.
Seeing a lot of the videos where you're like, oh, that's an amazing video. Who's the guy that's filming this? And then it's usually Noah. So I mean, that stuff really amazes me. It's been amazing to see those super talented skydivers.
Yeah.
Kind of. I never got to even close that level in skydiving. I think I had just over 400 skydives when I did my first base jump, and I've probably done 500 more in the last 14 years. I was, it's real bad to say, but I was the kind of guy that would go out and do one or two skydives to trap my new wingsuit, and then we're going to go take it to the mountains.
Yeah, man.
That was, figured out.
I mean, when I first got started in skydiving, that kind of stuff would have been frowned upon, but nowadays it's almost commonplace anymore. I mean, I think that people that are in both sides of the sport are a lot more common than they used to be. It used to be just a few people on the drop zone were base jumpers, and then, you'd maybe one or two people a year would go and do bridge day. Because that was the big safe one. Okay, everybody's going to go do bridge day. It's well tested. You can land in the water. Very few major incidents happen at bridge day. It's a high exit, and but there weren't that many people that took it further than that. That was them checking the box. Yes, I've base jumped. I went and I did bridge day. But nowadays, I think it's quite commonplace for people to come out to the drop zone to learn how to skydive only so that they can base jump. And that was
and to only to wingsuit base jump.
Yeah,
even more so. I mean, I'd say the biggest change I've seen in my career in base jumping is kind of I won't say the death of slider down jumping, but guys don't get into base jumping to do slider down. They get in it because they saw the wingsuit videos and they want to fly the wing, which is understandable. Wingsuits are freaking amazing. I mean, wingsuit proximity flying is probably the most intense, crazy thing I'll do in my entire life, and I'm okay with that. That's great.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and you may have been around, Davis, at the time that Ammon McNeely and Evo came out.
Sure.
These are and it was funny because when they came out, and I've talked about them a number of times on the podcast, and one of these days, Pirate, you're going to fucking be on the podcast. They came out.
I was just talking to Evo over Facebook Messenger last week, actually.
Were you really? Oh, I fucking love that guy, man. I was just telling a story about doing his AFF, and he was the most intense guy in the world, and then I found out who he was, and I've seen videos of him climbing, and I'm like, that can't be the same fucking guy. because he's so calm and so focused on his climbs, but he was so intense and high strung learning how to skydive. I'm like, Jesus Christ, I got to get this guy to calm the fuck down. And and then to find out that he and Ammon and Nick Martinez are these rock gods climbing in Yosemite under the stone monkeys. Holy shit, it's
Sure.
incredible.
Yeah, I mean, spending a lot of time in Yosemite with those guys that I climb a little bit. I'm not a climber, and if I am a climber, I am nowhere near the category of those guys who are just legends in their sport. I mean, so being able to run around in the valley and hang out with those guys and kind of get taught Yosemite by the guys who are the gods of Yosemite was amazing. Was a super. I feel very privileged to have done that kind of thing. So
it's funny because I've said it before and I'll say it again. There's nothing particularly cool about me except my friends. I've got some of the coolest friends on the fucking planet, and I count Nick Martinez and Emma McNeely as those as well. And to be able to say that these guys that have set world's records and done these incredible things that I can't even begin to fathom attempting, these are buddies of mine, and I get to brag just because, hey, this is my good friend, and look how fucking incredible he is. And it's really cool to be associated with and to know people that can do these absolutely amazing things that even I wouldn't even think twice to consider doing the shit that they're doing. And it's so cool.
Yeah, BASE collects a lot of those kind of extreme sports athletes from other realms, skiers and things like that too. I mean, I remember meeting Shane McConkey and never having heard of him, and just meeting him skydiving and base jumping, and someone be like, yeah, he's like the best free skier in the world. Like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah,
I just saw a video, a clip of it was Bear Grylls with Alex Honnold, and Alex went out to do a skydive, and he went on record as saying, "I hate falling. Shit's just not for me. It scares me. I don't like it." And I'm like, dude, you climbed El Cap without a fucking rope. Come on.
He did his AFF at Lodi too. Like,
did he really?
I can't remember what year. Yeah, I can't. He was kind of. I think his plan was to get into base jumping, and I think then Stanley and Dean died about that time, and that was kind of called it off, and that's fair enough.
So since you brought it up, what's your overall opinion of Lodi? Because people seem to go one of two ways.
Yeah, I see both sides of it equally, and I'm not sure how much you've heard of the more recent stuff, but it's sadly it's seeming like kind of the endish of an era for Lodi. Kind of thing.
What's the most recent stuff?
Well, the biggest thing that was there was some bad publicity about tandems and plane crash and things like things that tend to happen at Lodi every now and again. To be fair, but they decide to finally raise their prices. So I think it's either $20 or maybe even $25 for a jump ticket now, and it's Lodi is an amazing place, and a part of the thing that brought tons of people, especially from around the world and climbers and things like that, is you could do a 13,000 foot jump out of an otter for $13, and just hang out there for a month and do 100 jumps if you wanted to easily, because they're jumping otter every day of the week.
Yeah, pretty much.
And I think Bill's just kind of getting. He's getting older. I bet he's getting kind of just sick of all the bullshit kind of thing.
Yeah,
and I'm sure he has an exit strategy. And I think Bill is a super good guy for skydiving. I mean, talk about a guy who loves skydiving. I remember I did a survey, and this was before they had internet surveys for everything. And I got a grant in med school after my first year to travel around to different drop zones and to give out surveys on what's called anhedonia. What anhedonia means is that how much do you enjoy regular things because you do this intense kind of stuff. And it was actually developed for heroin addicts to say, do you enjoy, normal things because you have the highs of heroin? Does it depress your love of normal things? And it turns out skydivers actually love normal things even more than regular people. The surveys always ask like, oh, how would you enjoy a beautiful sunset on a 1 to 4 scale, 4 being the most and 1 being. But I actually had Bill do one of these surveys, and part of the survey is how many skydives do you have? And his answer, and this was probably in 2005 or 6, was 40,000 plus. I was like, holy crap. I mean, the man loves skydiving, and that's what he did for a long time, and did a lot of tandems, and flew a lot of loads kind of thing. So
I
have a lot of respect for Bill as a unique individual as Bill is. I got a lot of respect for him, what he's done for the sport, USP or not kind of thing.
I think unique is the only way to put it. And he's such a polarizing figure in skydiving, because it seems to me that either you are in Bill's camp or you're not. There doesn't seem to be a real middle of the road. And I flew briefly at Bill's drop zone when all his aircraft had been grounded by the FAA. So they're all on the ground because, and I may be misquoting, so Bill, if you're listening, sorry, that the FAA came out to inspect.
Bill's not listening.
No, he doesn't give a fuck. And he wouldn't care anyway. He'd just try and fire me. But I believe the FAA was inspecting one of the Otters, and when they asked for the paperwork on one of the engines that was hanging on the Otter, they didn't have any. So
yep, sounds about right.
Yeah.
My first ever jump at Lodi was when I was actually coming out. I came out to Sacramento in like November of 2005, I guess it was, to do my med school interview. And I brought up rigs. I was skydiving. So went down to Lodi and I went up with my logbook, went up to the desk and say, hey, I need to fill out a waiver. And Bill says, we don't do waivers here. We do skydives. I was like, fair enough. This is an interesting place.
Fucking Bill. Man,
waivers on the ticket.
I've seen him in really good moods, and I've seen him in not so good moods. I watched him tell a fun jumper that I guess had never jumped there before, made the mistake of asking Bill when he was in a bad mood where he should pack his parachute, and I think the answer ended up being at another drop zone.
Yep. I never got officially fired at Lodi, but I did. I was coming in from a wingsuit jump, and this is actually when you could swoop at Lodi, so you could do 270s. So this was 10, 12 years ago, and I did a 270, and there was a tandem student that her friend was landing across the field and just ran out across the field to go see her friend when she landed. And I came close-ish to her. It wasn't a near collision or anything, but it was a noticeable, oh, that girl ran in front of me kind of thing. So Bill, I'm walking back inside. Oh shit, Bill's gonna come up to me. Bill comes up and goes, "Hey, did you see that tandem?" It's like, "Yeah, Bill. Got kind of close to her." "Yeah, Bill. Sorry about that." "Do you know where the student field is?" "Yes, Bill, I do." "Well, you know the field that's 2 fields past that?" "Yeah, Bill, I do." "That's your landing area." "Okay, Bill, I'm sorry." Took me about 15 minutes to walk in from every jump across 4 farm fields back out.
Yeah.
No, you didn't piss off Bill.
Right. He didn't fire me, but I didn't actually work for him, and I was flying the only plane that he had available at the time. So, but I don't know that Bill cared for me all that much when I was there, because I'm not very good at keeping a clean tongue in my mouth. So it was fuck this and shit that, and anybody that knows Bill or knows Lodi is you do not cuss around Bill. No,
and as whatever people say about Bill, when swooping was hurting people and stuff, he banned swooping, no greater than 9-degree turn. And when, if there was something dangerous that you did, or even, using drugs in the drop zone, if you heard about that, you're off. I mean, he had very, kind of strict policies out of a lot of stuff. A very interesting guy for sure. But, I don't know if I could say any of the stuff he did was super horribly egregious in any way kind of thing. But yeah, and I'm sure being at Davis too, there was definitely a Ray versus Bill kind of thing.
Sure.
For sure.
Oh, sure. And I mean, I will always be Team Ray only because Ray's a good friend of mine, and Ray gave me amazing opportunities. I don't know Bill well enough to say. And obviously, sure. I just go by, what I've heard about the drop zone and the unfortunate incidents that take place there on a semi-regular basis. I mean, I tried to picture Bill's reaction when he found out about this latest fatality when the poor woman landed on the highway.
Oh, yeah. There's an amazing interview of Bill talking about that, by the way, on YouTube. I'm sure you can find it somewhere.
Yeah, for sure.
He's basically sitting there, and he has about 6 microphones clipped to his shirt from all these news agencies. He's sitting there just being Bill. And they're like, Bill, so what happened with this recent raid? And he's like, which raid are you talking about? I've been raided by the FAA, the FBI, the CIA, the tax agency, all this stuff. I don't know. It was just hilarious. Absolutely hilarious.
He's I used to jump for a group out in Vegas called Outlaw Skydiving, but perfectly honest, it should have been Bill. Outlaw Skydiving all the way. He's exactly what you would picture the Fandango pilot being when he got old.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, he's a guy. Skydiving needs characters and has characters like that. And it's sometimes it is the rebels that are pushing stuff, and good or bad, Bill's a rebel.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean,
Bill is Bill, and he's always going to be Bill no matter what.
Oh, no, he's not going to change for anybody. And I mean, if you look at it from a sideways point of view, Bill dramatically pushed skydiving in Northern California to be better because all the drop zones around, whether it was Davis or down in Monterey and all this stuff, were competing as hard as they could to try and take business away from Bill. And that only happened because he had such a great business.
Absolutely.
I haven't jumped at Lodi, and I stayed away from Lodi because of the bad reputation that it had. And then I flew there for the first time and went, oh, okay, yeah, it's a little bit Wild West, but it's not that bad. And they actually have a surprising amount of rules in place to try and keep people safe.
Oh, sure. I mean, it's one of those things. Northern California is a very interesting area where you have these two drop zones that are very close together and do a lot of business, but no one really jumps back and forth between them. I mean, even down in Paris and Elsinore, I'm sure it seems like there's people that go back and forth between Paris and Elsinore, and everyone's friendly about it.
Well, don't they have the boogie that goes back and forth? I mean, they have them where you take off from Elsinore and land in Paris.
Yeah, sure. I mean, they actually support and enjoy each other kind of thing, and that is not the case between Davis and Lodi, and I don't think ever has been.
No,
kind of thing, so.
If Davis and Lodi were on the same airport, it would just be another version of Hawaii.
I was just going to say that. It's very similar to Hawaii, where you got guys right next to each other just hating each other.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. But,
I remember hearing a story about Hawaii, and I don't know if it's true. I could be talking out of my ass, but that basically the staff from one drop zone was told on windy days, if you see a tandem from another operation getting dragged, you just fucking let them get dragged.
I believe it. I believe it for sure.
That's some hardcore shit right there, man.
Yeah, I mean, I started jumping at Davis when I first moved out, just because that was the closer drop zone, and honestly, it does have more of that kind of more stereotypical drop zone vibe of hang out afterwards, and we're all going out to dinner and having a Christmas party and things like that. And there was just a little bit less of that at Lodi, but there was a lot of wingsuits at Lodi. So that's and that was the time where there wasn't a lot of wingsuits most places. So that's really what drew me there and kept me there for a majority of my skydives, I would say.
For sure. Well, and a lot of the people that I've talked to that were avid Lodi jumpers were like, I've learned to navigate the politics at Lodi, and the jumps are really cheap.
Sure. And I mean, you had some of the best free flyers in the world coming out of there, because they were doing tons. I mean, in the early 2000s, the camera flyers that were out at Lodi, Robbie Bigley and guys like that were amazing free flyers, and we're kind of pushing the sport forward too. So
yeah. And it's the cheap jumps and access to a plane, a turbine 7 days a week that'll do it.
Sure, absolutely.
So as we roll through the hour mark, completely off the subject of skydiving, you're an ER doctor, which means you see some seriously intense shit. The morbid asshole in me wants to know some good stories from being an ER doctor. You gotta have some.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's plenty. There's some pictures of X-rays and things like that are always interesting. I mean, so the people always ask about people putting stuff in their butts. I think that's the most common. And when you ask an ER doctor what the gnarliest thing he's seen is, he's thinking about some awful stuff that he doesn't want to talk about, kind of thing. Dead kids, stuff like that. It's there's definitely downsides to the job.
Sure.
But there's a lot of people that put funny stuff in their butts too. So, it's a balance.
Well,
there's
the funny stuff in the butt thing seems much more entertaining to me.
Oh yeah. And it absolutely is. And what I always like to remind people is that, and what I remind myself when someone comes in and they're like, hey, I got something, up there, is that they have probably tried everything they can possibly think of to get this out. I mean, I don't think anyone goes, whoops, let's go make this public. Let's get a stranger involved in their retrieval of this. I mean, they have tried everything that they can think of.
Oh man. That's gotta be, I mean, how do you just let it go and laugh, or do you manage to keep a straight face?
I always figure that, we're probably seeing a teeny tiny percentage of stuff that's getting put in butts too. So it's probably way more common than anybody really wants to talk about. So these things, every once in a while you'll have, a kind of preteen teenage kid that'll come in with shampoo bottle or something like that, and mom is with them and is extremely embarrassed and like, should we put him in therapy? I don't know what to do. And I kind of always say, hey, there's probably we are probably seeing 0.01% of things that 14-year-old boys are putting in their butts.
Right.
So, it's probably just curiosity gone wrong. I wouldn't worry too much about it.
For every one that ends up in the hospital, there's 100 that manage to lube up the tongs and get it out of there.
I'll give you. I don't like to get super specific on stories, just because some of them are pretty specific and people could be listening. But I'll tell you, my probably most memorable one is that when we get an ambulance assigned to us, we get this little alert on our phone saying what's coming in by ambulance and what time. So I get foreign body by ambulance 5 minutes. Interesting. So ambulance gurney comes in and there's a teenage guy face down with a blanket covering him and something very tall protruding from the general area of his buttocks. I'm like, what is going on here? And a very distraught looking mother following closely behind the gurney. So I kind of go and I'm like, hey, what's going on here? She's like, it's a toilet brush I bought from IKEA last week. I was like, what? A toilet brush? And the toilet brush, the problem is that the bristles are kind of a little bit Christmas tree like. So they go in a lot easier than they come out, and it was brushed first.
Oh no, my God.
And I was kind of like, was this just curiosity gone wrong? And the kid, I'm sure you can imagine that he's not thrilled about the situation either.
Right.
And I even called one of the surgeons to be like, hey, do you think I'm going to do any damage just pulling this thing out? What's going to happen? There's like, no, go for it. So we give the kid a little sedation and, just kind of pull it out. And I always kind of say, have you ever taken a wet toothbrush and kind of flick the bristles?
Oh no.
That's kind of what happened. There's this kind of a little fine mist of shit through the air. So yeah, it's never a dull moment in the ER.
Oh my God. I had a good buddy that was a jumper out in Cross Keys that was an ER nurse. And he would come in and give us the most ridiculous stories because he, like you, would work nights and then he'd come to the drop zone in the morning, exhausted, do a couple of jumps and then sit around drinking beer. And some of the stories that he had to tell were just, oh my God. And he was in the Philly area, and I can't remember the name of the town, but it was like famous for gunshot wounds and the stories that he would tell would just be outrageous. But the funniest ones would be along those lines of people shove something up their ass or did this or did that. And oh my God.
Oh yeah. You see some gnarly stuff. UC Davis is the big level 1 trauma center around Sacramento. So you get plenty of gnarly, crazy, car crashes, limbs missing, all sorts of gnarly stuff. So it's you firm up your stomach pretty quick.
You'd have to.
It's just kind of part of the job. And honestly, like, it's a job. I've always kind of say it's a job that needs to be done. Someone's got to be okay with doing it. For some reason, I'm okay with doing it. So
sure,
I should probably do it.
Well, and I would imagine that it, in a slightly more extreme version, is it's going to up your humor level as well as a self-defense mechanism. It's like skydivers or base jumpers,
ER medicine is so similar to skydiving with that dark humor. You have to have it to really cope with stuff. Otherwise you'd go nuts.
When I was
there is a very with things like base jumping, it's amazing and crazy and taking me, but there's a dark side to it too. You lose friends, like you lose close friends. So
when I was very early in the sport and had just started really jumping hardcore, I was shooting video and we had a fatality on the drop zone that I was at, and nobody at the drop zone knew him because he was visiting, but of course everybody is still devastated and people crying all over the place, and there were two the English instructors that I worked with that were sitting down at a picnic table just shoving food in their face and yakking back and forth and having a good old time. And one of the girls at the drop zone that was heavily in tears was like, oh my God, how can you guys eat at a time like this? And the one Englishman looks up without blinking and goes, well, he's still fucking dead, isn't he? And I remember I remember being horrified when he said that because I was early in the sport. And now, 25 years later, that would be the most mild thing that you'd hear a lot of people say.
Sure.
And it's a wonderful self-defense mechanism. So I can imagine that, especially as an ER doctor, it's got to be that way.
And maybe I'm just all pushing it down inside and I'll have a massive nervous breakdown someday.
It
doesn't feel like that yet, but you never know.
That's a definite possibility. Well, I get all my knowledge of what goes on in the ER from shows like Nurse Jackie. So my mentality is very twisted, or maybe not. Maybe it's right on. So I always wrap things up on the podcast by asking people what advice they would give to people just getting started in jumping, whether it's skydiving or base jumping, or what advice they'd give to people that are wondering if they want to continue. Should they continue, or is it time to quit? What do you say to those people?
Sure. I'd say for people, especially first getting involved, don't be in a hurry. And that's the hardest thing, because especially in things like base or even skydiving, like all the cool guys are free flying. All the cool guys are have tiny rigs with tiny canopies and are swooping. All the cool guys are wingsuit base jumping and proximity flying. Enjoy everything for what it is. I mean, enjoy your AFF. Every single one of us was that same terrible AFF student at some time. Every single person. There's an amazing video of me trying to do my first backflips on a year-end video back somewhere at Skydive Midwest, of not bending my knees in at all and just doing these awkward, like back bend, horrible things. Everyone was that way at one point, no matter how cool you are. So
Sure.
enjoy sucking at stuff. I mean, be okay with sucking at things, and knowing that someone famous probably said, being an expert at things is just being comfortable with being bad at something for a long time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I completely agree with that.
You're supposed to be terrible. Just keep doing it. If you love it, if it's something that you enjoy, just keep doing it. You'll get better.
Awesome. Now, how about those people that are starting to wonder whether or not they should keep on going?
I mean, I would just say, this is me with base. Someday I'm sure I'll say enough is enough kind of thing, and I'm just done with it. And, listen to yourself and ask yourself genuinely if it's something that you don't want to do. No one's forcing you to do it.
Yeah.
If you still enjoy it, you can still do stuff, and you can always take a break and come back.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's what worked for me. I took a 4-year break from jumping and didn't jump again until the idea actually made me nervous. And now I'm a born again fun jumper, which is wonderful.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I just got back into skydiving more in the last year or so. I've got a bunch of buddies that are jumping and doing all the fun, crazy wingsuit things too in the sky. So starting to do that, I'm like, oh, this is super fun again. I remember why I like this in the first place.
That's awesome. Yeah, man. And it's the great thing about skydiving for the most part is and base jumping to some degree is it's something you can always go back to.
Yeah, maybe you shouldn't at some point with base jumping, but you always can. It's always there. And I always tell people too, when they're excited about doing an object, or they especially in base, if the weather's not right or the conditions aren't right, but they're like, oh man, I spent 3 hours hiking up here. The object's going to be there. You're not. That's the only difference. I mean, it's always going to be there. Those cliffs have been there for long before we were around, and will be there long after. So be patient with stuff. Don't push stuff. And of course, like every good skydiver and base jumper, I'm giving all the advice that I didn't do when I was first starting.
Of course.
That's the important part about being a base jumper, is give advice to do the exact opposite. Always harp on people for doing the exact same things you were doing 10 years ago and tell them to do the opposite.
Yep.
Very important.
Yep. No, and that advice has been given on this podcast a number of times. So you're in really good company. Well, Charley, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to sit down. I know you've got a crazy busy schedule, and you spent the whole night pulling things out of people's butts, and now you're here talking with me.
That's all I do.
That's it.
If I can paint the picture for everyone in VR, that's all we do.
Awesome.
Stuff out of butts.
Awesome. Well, I hope never to visit your ER.
Fair enough. Me too.
Once again, Charley, thank you so much for taking the time.
Good talking to you, buddy.
Take care. Alrighty, there's another one in the can. Lunatic Fringe, Into the Void, brought to you by the greatest magazine in the known universe, that is Blue Skies Magazine. Head to blueskiesmag.com where you can subscribe to the magazine. You can get previously published issues, all kinds of cool swag. And by the way, there's going to be a lot more swag coming up pretty soon. If you got any interesting ideas for articles, hit them up. Let them know. If you've got a story to tell it. Fucking get it out there. Also, photographers, man, get your pictures into Blue Skies Magazine. For me, the fucking pilot, fuckingpilot.net is where you're going to find me, nice and easy. That's got links to, obviously, this podcast, as well as both the books that I've written, the Fucking Pilot book for Blue Skies Magazine and The Accidental Stripper. Both of them available in digital and print form, and they're both absolutely ridiculous. I apologize in advance, but they're fun. So, anyway, once again, Lunatic Fringe, Into the Void, I am the fucking pilot. Thanks for coming.